Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's 8 a.m. here in the UK, and you're welcome to my life. Thank you for taking the time to have this conversation with me today. I'm going to keep these brief, but brief enough for us to have a conversation. So today we are talking about the mirror principle. There's lots of ways to refer to this one. It's like mirroring, lens through which you see life, all sorts of different explanations or interpretations of this principle. But basically, it invites us to use a mirror metaphor to have a reflection about our lives. So the core principle of this is the fact that the reflection that you see in your physical mirror. Okay, so if I'm wearing this, standing in front of the mirror with these glasses, all I'm going to physically see in my mirror is everything that I have on me. That's the physical interpretation of how we use a mirror. But the psychological interpretation of that mirror image is what affects us in self-development, perception of self, and how we encounter and show up in our relationships. Like, how do you see yourself in that psychological mirror, in your mind, in your soul, in your heart? How do you see you? Dictates a lot of things in your life. How do you see other people? Dictates a lot of things in your life. So you versus you, and you versus the other people. But what this principle is saying is that your reflection in that mirror is fake. Generally, we see that reflection in the mirror to be our reality. But actually, that's just a reflection. For instance, the echo of your voice is not the reality, because by the time you hear that echo, you had already spoken. The reality had already taken place. And the echo is just a sound capture and repetition of what you said in the past tense. In the same way, your mirror image is a reflection of your internal world. So it doesn't matter how beautiful you look. If inside your soul you don't think that you're beautiful, you can be looking at your amazing image in that mirror and thinking, oh, my nose is too big. My eyes are too dark. My hair is too this. So when you see that mirror, you see it with your psychological perception of self, which means that if that psychological perception of yourself is low, you can be looking into any metaphorical mirror and you will still not feel good enough because the mirror is external. Now, sometimes mirror can be people talking to you about you, people giving you feedback about how you show up, about your life. Sometimes that can be your mirror. Sometimes the mirror can be how you did in that job interview. It can be how people treat you in that relationship. That then determines how you see you. Every situation, every person, or everything that makes you perceive you in a certain way is a mirror in terms of self-development. And it's very important to make that distinction, because that is then how you decide whether you see you appropriately or not. And that's the whole point of this reflection. Like, that interpretation of those words that somebody said to you, does that reflect you? Because you see you through projected images of self, projected images by other people, or projected images by situations that you encounter. So that if those situations are positive and highlight the best qualities of you, then you see you as confident and beautiful and amazing based on the projection that your real life situations is having on you. But again, that is not necessarily your reality, because if you fail an exam in a subject that you're not expert in, it doesn't define you permanently. If a partner treats you in a way that is not amazing, it doesn't define you permanently. So those mirror frames in those people and scenarios and situations that we find ourselves in are not reality, but our interpretation of the image in our mirrors is our truth. And that's the most important truth in your life, because if you believe it, then it's real. Nothing can change that image in your mirror except for you. And changing does not mean going and putting on some lipstick. It does not mean going and changing your clothes to designer ones. And that's why sometimes we can be so superficial in our approach towards life, because we think, oh, I didn't look good enough. I didn't feel like I stood out in my ordinary cheap clothes. So let's do designer. Sometimes you would think that the price of that designer object will lift you up, but generally, if you are insecure about self, if you are guilty or ashamed or have that mindset of scarcity versus abundance, then you are still going to project an image into your mirror that diminishes your true worth. And the word projection is really important here, because there are a few different types of the mirror image that we see in our lives. And one of them is projection. It's like when I'm looking into the mirror of my life, say for instance, it's a real mirror, or the mirror of my relationship, how I think my partner sees me, my friends see me, my community see me. We've said that mirror is anything that elicits a perception of self from you, okay? Whether it's somebody giving you criticism. And the reason why we react so negatively or positively to criticism is because it makes us see us in a certain way that is positive or negative. So when you project into a mirror, it's like you are hiding like something about you that you're projecting the denied parts of yourself onto other people. You see how they look at you and you think, why are they looking at me like this? Who do they think they are? Do they think they are better than everyone else? Okay. Hello, Claim 6. Welcome to my life. Good morning. And thanks for your greetings. So we project into our mirror, and then we interpret the image that we have projected into that mirror as the reality, whether it's a real mirror or a person that we are dealing with. The second kind of image is resonance-based mirrors. And this is like based on how you resonate with something or somebody. Like we click with people based on certain things about those people that sit well with us, that resonate with us. And sometimes it's not necessarily good. People who do not challenge us can make us feel comfortable enough to accommodate them in our lives. People who look like us and think and talk like us, come from the same cultural background as us, can make us resonate with them or deviate from them if we have strong negative thoughts and beliefs around people from that background or culture or who look like that person. So something in you, about you, your beliefs and your culture and your expectations makes you see people in a way that resonates or does not resonate from you. And that can be your mirror of judgment or mirror of accommodating or excluding people from your life in everyday situations. And finally, is responsibility-based mirrors, like our experiences and life choices reflect our beliefs, like what you think, what you want, what you expect kind of determines how you approach your life in general terms. So, in summary, what we've said until now is that when you look into a mirror, what you see in that mirror is what already exists in your life. Sometimes we go away and interpret that image in the mirror as our reality, but the reality existed before you went and stood in front of that mirror. And sometimes the reality is in your mind. Let's think about a photocopy machine. Like if I wrote something down on a piece of paper and I wrote it wrong and I photocopied it, that wrong mistake will come out in my photocopy. If I want to change that mistake, I cannot photocopy a new copy because my original copy is the copy that is flawed. I could cross out the mistake in the original. I could do whatever 100 things I do in the original. But if I print another copy, the same mistake will come out. And the reality of this is that when you think that you're a king, your mirror will portray you as a king. If you perceive yourself to be weak and a victim, your mirror will perceive you as a victim. So your internal view of self, your internal world shows up in your external environment and expectations. And until you start to imagine and feel and think differently inwardly, you will not be able to change that image in your mirror. And that's the same concept in terms of engaging with other people externally. We're going to look at a few concepts and variables of this mirror image, like your reality is like that mirror. Can it be blurred? Can it be tinted? Can it be magnified? Or actually, can you change how you feel about you, and then that image will also change? So start with your relationship with self. How do you see yourself? Am I blessed? Am I able to bring possibilities to life? Am I intelligent? Am I flexible? Am I open-minded? These sound like simple things, but if you feel like people keep taking advantage of you, you feel like you cannot cope with discrimination or the way people treat you in public places, it's possibly going to reduce your choices of how you even show up to those places. You may see job employments and just think, I'm not going there because I've gone to two and they've discriminated on me. Or you can think that I'm not going for that interview because I don't think I'm intelligent enough to have that job role. It's not that person in that interview that has stopped you from coming. It's your thinking about self and your thinking about others that has stopped you from engaging in that aspect of your life. So that is what you're projecting from your internal world into your external mirror, your external engagements and commitments and opportunities. And until you actually positively transform that view of self, you are not going to be able to change anything in your external world. Okay, so what are some of these variables that we want to look at? External versus internal. These are the things that really help you to summarize and capture the concept of the mirror perspective that we can use to interpret our lives. And whether you know it or not, every time you make choices and decisions, you're seeing those things through that mirror of your life, mirror of your value, mirror of your potential, mirror of your skills versus the external, how people will take those skills that you think you have or lack, how people will interpret that aspect of you that you may be proud or ashamed of. You showing up in that relationship as a giant or an ant is how you think people see you. So your internal versus external thoughts, beliefs, and wounds and values. Because when you've been wounded by something or someone, we carry those wounds into new situations. We protect those wounds from new situations. Okay. And then the external world can be the feedback that people give you. It can be the situations that you encounter or just the environment that you live in. The second variable is conscious versus unconscious. The mirrors of our lives are not necessarily standing in our faces like a mirror that you're looking into. Some of those mirrors, we are completely clueless that they affect us, like we've said. So the conscious ones are the things that you do, the decisions that you make openly, knowing that I am reacting to this thing. I have done this thing. I can trace my footsteps from when I created this page or this channel and how I make the same video. So you can trace your conscious activities, but your unconscious or subconscious ones manifest in your life as the shadows of doubt, the shadows of anxiety and fear based on what your brain or your heart or your soul or your experiences are telling you you should look out for in your life. And that's very important because if you don't know that your no has been influenced by fear, if you don't know that your yes has been influenced by insecurities, then you don't know the silent influences that are holding you back in your life. So conscious versus unconscious is one of those things in our mirrors that you really have to look into. And the way you can explore this is like the emotions that are showing up, have I explored them to see where they are coming from? Okay. Then you have the shadow side versus the light in your life. Everyone has a shadow side, whether you're the most positive, the most kind, the most beautiful person in life. We all have those days where we think, oh, I'm going to deal with this person. Like, how dare them? How dare them do this thing? We all have those sides that we are not so proud of, that we hide in the background of our lives, that we don't want anyone to discover those things about us. So that shadow side has its role that it plays in your life. It has its trigger. If someone in your circle was to bring it up in conversation, your reaction to that conversation is going to be a certain specific kind of way because it's a shadow for a reason, either in ignorance or in intentional decision to put it away from physical observation and interpretation. So your shadow side is that dark, disowned, abandoned, and denied aspect of you that you would rather people did not really find out about. And the light and the positive aspects of you are those that we can happily show and carry and admire for ourselves and expect that other people will also love and those things about us. So your way to explore those things is like, are the things that I hate or love about me or about other people reflecting the things that I hate or love about myself? Because when we encounter people Their own behavior and personality triggers us, things that you've buried about yourself. If you see other people flaunting those things, it will make you uncomfortable, but uncomfortable in judgment to those people rather than acknowledging that I do not flaunt my sexuality. I wear my skirt longer than this person. Their skirt is too short. And because their skirt is too short, it's going to trigger in you the reasons why you wear your own long. Because you don't think people should be indecent, because you don't like your legs, because of some specific reason. When we see the way other people live their lives, it either resonates or displeases us because the values that we have in our own internal world do not align with those values of that person. The other variable is self versus other. And this is about perception, similar to the one that we've just talked about. Like, my perception and view of self is about me, but how I see me decides how I see other people. And this is very important because a lot of the times you don't know who is there for you. Even those lovers who swear love for you, you still look at them sometimes and wonder what they are up to and what is in their heads and hearts, if you could be a fly in the wall and really interpret what they are all about. Okay. But if you're insecure about yourself, that is going to magnify all of those things about other people's perception of you. The other variable of the mirror principle is the present time and the past. Okay, like we talked in the beginning, when I say these words that have come out of my mouth, the words come out of my mouth before you hear them. We make sounds before we hear the echo. We make mistakes before they embarrass us. We have achievements before they make us proud. So whatever you see in your mirror when you judge yourself has already existed, has already happened. But the thing that you use to define your identity is the after effect of that action that is reflected in your social mirror, in your employment mirror, in your relationship mirror, or just your self-identification mirror. And this is really important if you remember that all the images in your mirror are just reflections of things that already happened. So you cannot judge that image in the mirror. You cannot fix that image in the mirror because it's a reflection of the words that you said, the things that you did, the clothes that you wore, the hair that you have. It's a reflection of the values that you keep and everything about you that you believe in. So if you want to change that mirror, go back to the person, change their habits, change their thoughts, change their mindset, change what your expectations and your dreams and your goals are. And then when you put those new thoughts and ideas and dreams into action, they will start to manifest in your mirror in the days to come in your life. But you could not judge that image in your mirror. You could not criticize that image in your mirror because it's about things and behaviors and experiences and created identities that are already past and no longer present in your life. Just like that photocopy that you could not keep photocopying. Okay, the other aspect of the mirror is authenticity versus your defense mechanism. And that's how we show up. Do you actually bring that image of yourself, imperfect as it can be, into that mirror? Or do you try and project the best version, the polite version, the popular version of yourself into the mirror aspects of your life, your social and your employment circles? Like, how do you project yourself? How do you represent yourself? Do you kind of deflect, blame, shame, or do you own and take responsibility and accountability for you Are you proud of you irrespective of the scars and the imperfections? So authenticity versus defense mechanism is the other way that we show up in that mirror. And remember, I just told you that everything you see in your mirror has already existed. Your mistakes have already existed. Your glory has already existed. So own it, create it, change it, but don't stand there judging that image in that metaphorical mirror. The other one is reflection versus projection. We can use our mirror to say, oh my God, I look angry, I look sad, I look deflated, I look intimidated. Because when you look into the mirror, and that mirror can be how you reflect on things that have happened in your life, then you can actually be honest with yourself and say, oh, I can see how this happens. I don't like how they treated me. That's you reflecting on life genuinely. But projecting means you're attributing your emotions and your blame and other things onto self. When we say blame, it's not necessarily on others. When you blame you, then you're criticizing you for the things that went wrong instead of trying to figure out how to change it. Okay. The other aspect is feedback. Feedback versus the interpretation of that feedback. I've mentioned here that feedback is one of the biggest mirrors in which we see ourselves, even in looking through projects. How did we do? Because there's a saying that failure presents the biggest lessons, but that's only for people who can unpick that failure with meaningful reflection and see where they went wrong. But the reality is that feedback triggers us into seeing ourselves as broken and dumb and silly or incapable, or to see that feedback as insulting if it's coming from somebody who meaningfully wants to influence our action. So you want to be actually carefully looking at how you accept and interpret feedback, because it says a lot about you, how you receive feedback from other people. Granted, some people can be really horrible and mean in the way they deliver feedback, but if you focus on you and what that feedback means to you and how genuine and accurate that feedback is, then you're going to learn and grow, even if it was intended negatively. Okay. And finally, your environment teaches you a lot about you, how it influences you, and how you show up in that environment. Now we're going to quickly look at healthy and unhealthy ways of interpreting this mirror principle. Yes, it's telling us that the image in your mirror is not necessarily real. It's a projection of things that are either in your mind or things that have already passed, which means that the image in your mirror is like an echo or a photocopy or a result of things that have already happened. So you cannot judge that image, because the image in today's mirror is from actions of yesterday, and yesterday has already passed. So instead of standing in that mirror criticizing, do new things today so that tomorrow's image in tomorrow's mirror should be different from the one that you're looking at today. So when you look at that image in your metaphorical mirror, whether it's feedback or like a person or a situation, then what the first positive, healthy way of dealing with it is be curious, okay? Be curious with your reflection around that image. And most importantly, be non-judgmental. Like, what is this image telling me about my age, my abilities, my size, my color, my skills? What is it telling you in that mirror? Whether it's negative or positive, be curious about looking and learning from it and not judging you of it. The second one is focus on what the mirror reflects about you, not what is wrong with you. Okay, that mirror can be really important in telling you that, oh, you need to eat healthier. You need to stay away from this toxic thing. You need to work harder. You need to focus on your this or that or that. You need to go and apologize for the words that you said to that person. When we are being held to account by our mirrors of accountability, it means that we have gone wrong with some aspects of our values, something that we hold important or dear in our heart is not sitting right, either by internal action or external action. It doesn't matter, but how can I do that? The other thing is that the wound, think about the wound. Am I an open and ready person to treat this wound that the image in the mirror is bringing to the surface? What is triggering me? Okay. Instead of hiding the wound, instead of pretending that it doesn't hurt, instead of pretending that I didn't do it, how can I heal from this thing? How can I openly accept it and resolve it? Okay. Anger, shame, guilt are some of those parts that are hidden that show up in our mirrors in kind of some blurred images or aspects that we need to actually look closely and accept without running, without shame, or without letting guilt push us aside. And finally, am I using this new insight to grow or to hide? Because the mirror of growth can be very uncomfortable, can be very dark and difficult for you to accept that you have these dark and shadow aspects of self. As much as we glorify the beautiful sides of us when we look cute, cute in that mirror, and cute can be success, it can be loving, it can be receiving, it can be riches, yeah. But underneath all of that light and cuteness is that darkness and pain and all of those things that we always struggle to accept about self. And that holds us back because you cannot be fully integrated until you own all the parts of you. So looking into that mirror may be uncomfortable, but use it for new insight to grow, not to hide. Okay. Now, how not to use it? What are the warning signs? When you use it to blame yourself or other people. When you use it to let toxic people get away with things against you. Remember, we've said that we see in other people what we see in ourselves. And if you believe that, you may start to think that the person that minimizes me, the person that dismisses me, the person that is toxic towards me, that I relate or resonate with them in some way. But that's not always true. They are horrible people. They are toxic people. They are people who are just not nice in this world. And you have to be careful how much you believe in that mirror. You have to be careful how much you own from other people's treatments of you. Remember, we talked about internal versus external. You have control of your internal world, but some things that happen externally to you, you will have to learn to dismiss without accepting that insult, without thinking that you must have deserved those things for that person to say them to you. Denial is the other one. Like, don't use the mirror to tame your emotions because sometimes anger manifests, and instead of owning it and resolving it, we shout at ourselves to hide or to hold that anger. Like, don't scream at these people. Don't manifest such a dark emotion in public. That's not healthy. If your real situation is one of shame, is one of anger, or one of any other dark emotion, that's your reality. The way to get better is not to disown it or to hide it, but to resolve it. And that's very important because it bubbles in the down below if you hide it there, and it explodes in insecurities and other aspects of your life. Okay, and then don't try fixing yourself. Fix the problem. A lot of us focus on us when things go wrong rather than focusing on how we can effectively resolve the problem. And finally, set clear boundaries. It's very difficult to see how we reflect ourselves in other external situations, how we let other people influence our yeses and nos, to be polite, to be loved, to fit in, and to actually criticize us in the mirrors that we find ourselves in. If a partner criticizes something that you hold dear, do you stand for those values, or do you give up because you think, well, if I'm going to keep this relationship, I must listen to them? There are certain core values in you that must not be compromised. And that's where your boundaries come in. That's where you know when to compromise your yes and when the yes is a yes. You know when to agree with other people and when to agree to disagree. But knowing that there are aspects and pieces of yourself that cannot be sold and cannot be given up for anything. So your mirror in your life is unique to you alone, because it resonates with you in a specific way that it does not resonate with anyone else. Your dreams, your identity, your imagination, and most importantly, your perception of self. And that's where we want to end, because every change in your life is going to start from how you see you and how you want to see you in the future. How do you see you now? And if how you see you now is not great, that's not the end of your life. Now, how do you see you in the future? That's the other thing that you have control over. To change that aspect of you now. Change that mistake in your original, not in the photocopy. Change that tone in the voice, not in the echo. Change what you want to happen tomorrow by changing what is sitting in your heart, in your soul, and in your mind. And I hope that something about this reflection is going to sit with you in a way that didn't before you came upon this video today. It's very important to do some of these live sessions because there's only so much you can explain in a 5 or 10 minutes video. So I hope you found this longer version better, certainly occasionally. Thanks for watching. Please share this to motivate and empower other people in your own circle, even if you have already taken the message or even if it does not resonate with you. It may in a way that you cannot believe with someone else in your circles. Thank you.